Hi, I'm Danielle, and this is Chatter Out Loud, a podcast where I share thoughts and TV commentary on shows I like to watch. Now, before I start, I want to ask that you go ahead and like, follow, share, and subscribe. And on YouTube, where I upload my companion episode of my podcast, be sure to hit the notification bell. This way you can get a notification every time I post a new episode, and you won't miss out. It doesn't cost you anything to follow and subscribe, so go ahead and hit the button, and thank you in advance. So, welcome, and I thank you so much for joining me. Your presence is very much appreciated. Okay, so this episode will be dedicated to live feed updates, and it'll be really short, really short. The live feeds came on sometime last night. I'm still learning to navigate the live feeds. Unlike BBUS, you can't go back to a specific date and time, or at least I haven't figured that out yet. But you can rewind, so that's a good feature there. Also, BBCAN's quad cam feed has no audio, and I guess that makes sense. Although with BBUS, it does have audio on their quad cam, and if you listen to it with headphones, generally 2 cams have audio in one ear and 2 cams have audio in the other ear. And usually the quad cams are really 2 rooms. One room has 2 cams at different angles, and the other room has 2 cams at different angles. Same thing. So there's just little differences I'm learning to work through. So I'll get better as I progress, right? Okay, so as I mentioned, the live feed updates came back. They came back on sometime last night after the episode aired. And we quickly learned who won the HOH, and I'll share that in just a moment. What I wanted to do was go back to the power of veto and the players that are picked. Now, if you're watching my companion episode of the podcast, I'm adding a clip so you'll get a visual. So you'll have to check that out. I mentioned in my last episode that I wasn't sure how power of veto or the players for the power of veto were picked. I didn't know if it was like a draw of the chip or anything like that. But I found out. So I'm sharing that with you now. So picking the players for the power of veto, it's pretty cool. If you notice the colorful table in the middle of the living room or the common area, it's a round table and it's also a wheel. They place the names of each player on the wheel along with a couple of areas that says house guest choice. There are a few slots there. And there are 3 spins for the wheel or on the wheel. The HOH gets a turn to spin and the 2 nominees. Wherever the wheel lands is the player who is playing in the power of veto. So the 2 nominees each spins the wheel, and a wheel lands on a name of a house guest or a house guest choice. And then that's the person who will play in the power of veto. And then the HOH gets a turn at the spin and the same thing. As I said in my eviction night episode 2 last night, the HOH does not get to play in the power of veto. And that's a key difference between BBCAN and BBUS, right? In BBUS, the head of household not only has the power for the week, but once they play in the POV, if they win the power of veto, they even have more power. So there's an opportunity for them to shift things if they needed to. So I just find that part of the game is a little different. That's interesting. Anyway, I thought that wheel was pretty cool. And the wheel looks similar to the wheel you see on Wheel of Fortune, only there are names of the house guests on the wheel. So it's really cool.
What's the frosting?
Chicken and fish?
Hey everyone! It's time to pick players for the Power of Veto competition! Let's go! Only 5 players will be able to compete in the Power of Veto competition. The 2 nominees and 3 other players selected by a spin of the wheel. Yeah! As HOH, I will not be able to compete. Oh. Let's go!
Oh my God.
I get to play in the competition! Your turn to spin. Good luck, everyone.
So it's really cool. Okay, I was a little surprised by this, but there is a new HOH. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. And it's Marty. He's the oldest house guest in the house. And yeah, he won. Apparently, the comp was something to do with hockey. And it sounded like it was a little difficult. It was definitely a physical type competition. And yeah, Marty won the HOH. I can't wait to see it. All right, the house guests keep mentioning something about waiting for their Wendy's. Now, I think they get Wendy's on Fridays. So I have to see that. I'm going to really pay attention to that just to see what that's about. But I think it's the same Wendy's like BBUS because they were talking about nuggets and wedges, I guess. So I just want to check that out. I didn't know anything about this Wendy's thing on Fridays. So that's another element of the game. Maybe they get something like that with BBUS, but I don't know. Wendy's caught my attention. Only because I like Wendy nuggets. Whatever. Don't judge me. But yeah, they get Wendy's on Friday evenings. So I have to see if this is the same thing as US Wendy's. So we'll see. All right, Stephanie, although they presented Stephanie to us as a little vain on the feeds, she certainly is playing the game. I think her social game will work for her, but she is playing the game, you guys. She's not. They presented her in last night's episode as being a little, well, not so smart, right, with the geography and moose. But she does have a good social game so far. And she is playing the game. At least this week, she's playing the game with Marty. Apparently, she made some type of deal with him because Stephanie and Marty were the last two with what sounds like a physical competition for the HOH. So it was the last two, and I guess she made some type of deal, or they made some type of deal in terms of not putting each other up if the other one won. So Stephanie, she's playing the game. She may be smarter than we give her credit, right? All right, Herman is talking to Stephanie and Dr. Josh, Betty, Helena, and they're talking about Jess. Well, he's really instigating it, but he's talking about Jess. There's definitely a lasting effect from him putting her on the block and their relationship. So later on in the feeds, I do see her really working to try to talk with the other house guests and especially talking with Jess, especially her reaching out and talking with Herman, just trying to have casual conversation and staying integrated in the scene, being amongst all the house guests and really participating in the conversation. So I really see Jess trying. But you can tell there's definitely some type of lasting effect between Herman and Jess, at least from Herman's point of view, because he's in that room just talking about her, and that wasn't so nice. But it does look like Jess could potentially become the house's target, but we'll see. We then see Moose. Yeah, Moose is infiltrating Marty's thoughts. Similar to what he did with Herman during Herman's HOH, Moose. Yeah, he's becoming that guy, right? We're starting to see the second HOH confiding in Moose. So Marty is now confiding in Moose. Apparently they have some type of deal, and it's 4 of them in the deal. I didn't pick up all the names of who the 4 are working together. So apparently Marty, Moose, and 2 other people are now all working together. So I'll discover that soon. But I just find it interesting that the new HOH has Marty in his ear already. They're whispering and planning and trying to make sure they are not detected, right? So they're trying to whisper and plan when they can, but keep their distance so no one else will pick up that they're working together. But I'm telling you, Moose is playing this game. He's playing a little hard. I hope he just keeps it at an even pace, but we'll see. But yeah, Moose is Marty is confiding in the Moose, or I shouldn't say the Moose. Marty is confiding in Moose. They're speaking, they're talking. So at that point, when I saw that on the live feeds, I know who is definitely not going up on the block. All right. And then one observation I had in looking at the feeds last night was Moose and his curls. They're giving me like that Christian feels, right? And if you don't remember, Christian was from BB23, BBUS season 23. He had all of the curls. He was a cute guy. He had all of the curls and he kept swinging his hair around. That was like, they did a lot of clips and showed the video, especially when they introduced him to the US, of him moving his head, like slowing it down. So it was like in slow motion where his curls were just all over the place. And Moose's curls, it's just giving me the same feels, right? I mean, we've already seen a couple of hairstyles on Moose in the house so far. And that was similar to what Christian did. Although Christian did walk around with a bonnet in the house. I had not seen that yet with Moose, but the curly hair and the swinging it around and it's all in his eyes and his face. It's all giving me that Christian feel. But anyway, yeah, that's all I wanted to share. So Marty is the new HOH and the house guests are planning for their Wendy's. So I'll keep watching the live feeds. I'll keep seeing if I can discover new alliances and things like that. So thank you so much for listening. And that's all I have. So be sure to come back and give me a listen. I'd love for you to like, follow, share, and subscribe. You can also leave me a comment and leave me a message. If you're listening to the podcast, there's a link to leave me a message. So check that out. My name is Danielle, and you're listening to my podcast, Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, I appreciate your support. And that's all I have. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.